Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Michelle Jolene, and it has been a minute. Hi. Today I thought I'd do a story about the time I did meth on accident. That's right, folks. You heard it here first. I did meth, and it was unintentional. And here is how this story begins. One day, when I was a junior in high school, I did not want to be at school. Go figure. But it was something about that day, I just remember feeling like I had to get out of there. So at my lunchtime, I left. I went home. It was 105 that day, and I was just not feeling it. So I leave school. Now I'm walking home, and I get like a mile and a half. I live 3 miles away from my house, and I have to walk. I just have to walk. I don't have a car. What am I going to do? So about halfway to my house, there was this girl there. We're going to call her Christine. And I used to babysit her children for her. Now, part of the reason I used to babysit her children is because she was an addict and she was addicted to meth. Now, Christine had these good qualities about her. And I didn't want to see those children taken away, so I would look after her kids. I would actually take them for days at a time, and it was just something I did. So on this particular day, it was 105 out, so I got halfway, and that was to her house, and I was so thirsty. I was dying. So I get to her door, and her door is wide open, but no one's home. At this point, I'm assuming the kids went to daycare. They went to school. At this particular point in time, she was actually working at a gas station. So I assumed she was at work. And so that just kind of left her boyfriend. Now, I'm not even going to try with this guy because, for real, fuck this dude. He is trash. And he's an addict too, but we're going to give him a different name and we're just going to call him a tweaker. And so he's just tweaker trash. So I'm seeing this apartment and it's empty. There's no one home. Door is wide open. So I'm assuming Josh is somewhere around there. He just like ran over to a neighbor's house or maybe went to the store and left the door open because, like I said, he is on drugs. Well, I walk in and I go straight for the fridge because I'm thirsty. And I could drink tap water, but honestly, her sink is so filled with dishes that I can't even turn the water on. I mean, ugh, can we just, no. I digress. So, I find a clean cup, pour myself a glass of Kool-Aid. Now, in case anyone was wondering, it was blue Kool-Aid. So I pour myself a glass of Kool-Aid, and I down it. Inhaled the whole glass. And then I decide very quickly that I'm still thirsty, and that wasn't enough. So I pour myself a whole nother glass. Down that glass too. Put it away. Stand there for a minute, and I start feeling funny. Start feeling restless. And I'm looking around, and I'm like, you know what? This place really needs to be clean. I'm going to start with the dishes. So I do her dishes. And as I'm doing her dishes, Josh finally comes in the house, and he's like, oh, hey, what are you doing here? And I was like, the dishes. I'm doing the dishes. He's like, aren't you supposed to be at school? And I was like, I didn't feel like being there, so I left. And he's like, okay. And then he notices like my cup there, and he sees that it had blue Kool-Aid, and he's like, "Oh, did you have some of that Kool-Aid?" And I was like, "Yeah, I had like 2 cups of it. Like, is it cool?" He's like, "No, you're fine." I was like, "Yeah, it was the only thing to drink in the fridge." And he's like, "Yeah, I just made it before I like headed over to the neighbor's house." Okay. And didn't say anything else about it. But what he did say to me was, "Hey, don't go home." And I'm looking at him like, "What do you mean, don't go home?" And he's like, "Yeah, no, just like stay here. Like the kids are going to be here. I want to take Christine out and we need a babysitter, so it's just easier if you're here." And I'm like, "Okay, whatever." So he goes outside, smokes a cigarette. I finish up the dishes, and I'm really feeling weird. And I don't even know how to describe this feeling. Like, I just want to keep doing things. I actually got this really big urge to draw, but first I wanted to go smoke a cigarette. So I walk outside, I ask him for a cigarette, and I'm talking to him, and I keep chewing on my upper lip. And he's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I don't know. Like, I can't stop. Like, I'm even thinking about it. This is driving me nuts. I never do this." I was like, "Maybe if I just smoke a cigarette, it'll be okay." So he's like, "Yeah." He gives me a cigarette, light it up, start smoking a cigarette. Well, at this time, this guy in a car pulls up, hops out, and like starts yelling at Josh like, "Yo, where's my money at? Blah, blah, blah. Whoop-de-whoop-de-whoop." Straight punks this dude, okay? Like, this guy just comes up and straight punks Josh. And I'm gonna be very, very, very honest when I say this, that like Josh was a bitch. Like, that was not the first time I've seen him get punked. Like, that dude bucked up on him and Josh cowered. Like, he put his arm up, protected his face. Like, he was not trying to fight him. And it looked like he didn't even know how to fight because it was straight, like, fetal position on the floor, you know? So, I watched that happen. And then I just kind of start laughing. And the guy leaves. And then Josh walks over and he's like, "Oh, you think that's funny?" I'm like, "Yeah, I do, actually. I think that was very funny." And like he gets all butthurt and he tries to leave, but as he's leaving, Christine pulls up. And he starts talking to her and he's like all heated about it. And they go into the bedroom and they start talking. Well, I guess while they're in the bedroom, he informs her about me drinking Kool-Aid. And as he's informing her, you know, I'm sitting on the couch just drawing my life away. I'm not an artist. I can't draw. Like, I'm a storyteller. But yeah, I'm sitting on the couch drawing away. So finally I hear the door open and she comes out and she sits down and she goes, "So, like, you stopped by here to, like, get something to drink?" And I was like, "Yeah, I stopped by, I drank the Kool-Aid, and then I started feeling funny, and so I stayed, I, like, washed your dishes and, like, cleaned up, and then, like, Josh told me, like, I couldn't go home because he wanted to take you out." And she goes, "Well, no, that was a lie. He said you couldn't go home because you drank the Kool-Aid." I'm like, "What the fuck do you mean I can't go home because I drank the Kool-Aid?" Like, sorry for the profanity. And she looks at me and she goes, "He put meth in the Kool-Aid." Well, no, actually she looked at me and she goes, "He put dope in the Kool-Aid." Okay, Now you gotta remember, I grew up with a mother that was a teenager in the 60s and like young 20s in the 70s. So dope growing up like was always weed. And I'm like, what do you mean he put weed in the freaking Kool-Aid? And she's like, no, not weed, like dope. And she keeps saying dope to me. He put dope in the Kool-Aid. He put dope in the Kool-Aid. Okay, I'm so sheltered. Like, we can get into that story different times, but I actually grew up really sheltered. And she's like, methamphetamines. He put meth in the Kool-Aid. Okay, now when I tell you I lost my mind when she told me that, like, I flipped out. I started yelling. I started cursing. I was so pissed off, and here's why. Now, at the beginning of this story, I told you there were 2 little kids involved, and that's why I went over there. I went over there to watch them, make sure they took their showers, make sure they were in bed. Like, I was pretty much like their mom, as much as a 16-year-old girl can be, because I still try to live my own life, but at the same time, I felt like a responsibility to take care of these 2 kids. Now, you're telling me that this motherfucker put some fucking meth in some Kool-Aid in a house with 2 young children and didn't tell anybody. Like, granted, he wasn't there, but maybe you put a sign that says, don't fucking drink this. Or maybe you just don't put meth in Kool-Aid when you live in a house with 2 young children. Like, what the fuck? Did you not think, oh, what if he went into the fridge? Because at the time, the little boy was 4 years old and he could very well go into the fridge and pour him some Kool-Aid. He's like, well, the kids weren't here. It doesn't matter if the kids were here or not. Like, this is their home. Like, how can you do that? So, like, from that moment, I was just done with the whole situation. Yeah. They ended up calling my mom, making something up, saying that, like, I couldn't go home because they wanted me to babysit. But yeah, that was the time I accidentally did meth. And I hope you enjoyed that. If you are interested in hearing more stories from me, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. All right. Thank you so much. Have a good day. Bye.